talk about 5 ways to create dynamics in your tracks. Dynamics in songs will always make your songs sound better, and you can create dynamics with a lot of different ways. I'm just going to show you now 5 ways I like to use in a lot of the songs I make and that are staples in creating dynamics. If you are an independent musician, you're creating music and trying to get that music heard, then please feel free to subscribe to this channel because that's what this channel is all about. The best way on how I like to think about dynamics is peaks and valleys, and this is something you might have heard before. A valley is flat, a peak is high, and your song should have peaks and it should have valleys. Typically, the peaks are in the choruses and the valleys are in the verses. But it shouldn't just be always flat and always insanely high. There should be like mixture of how flat the valley should be and how high the peak should be. And that's what dynamics are in your song. Also, these 5 things are in no way in priority order. The first one though that I like to use a lot is automation. So volume automation would be a simple style of automation. I like to take the automation a little further and automate filters. So let's take a listen to this intro. You keep me waiting and you think. I'm just gonna mute the vocal right now so you can focus on the instrumentation. You can hear things in the background, right? It's getting late, I wonder why. You pull me closer just to push me aside. It might be I'm automating the filter in this electric guitar that makes it sound like it's coming in and out. And so I'll show you that in real time. If I open up A to press the automation, and I go drop down and do this band frequency. And if I open up the actual frequency, you can see what's happening. When I play this track here, from maybe about this area, you'll see the filter is opening up. This is actually all automated. I'm not even using my hands right now, but you can see the chorus is happening here. So I want that filter to open up more right where that chorus is. So it's creating dynamic and tension in the song that's telling the listener, oh, something's happening here. I think it's going somewhere. There's a build somewhere. You can see on this synth pad too, we have just a bit of volume automation. So if everything had no automation, it was just flat, it would sound kind of bad actually. Even the lead vocal here, I've done some gain automation. Some things I was singing a bit too loud, so I wanted to bring it down so the compressor doesn't have to work as hard. I also automated the entire drum set here. If I scroll up to the drums, now nothing was happening in the drums here other than these hi-hats, but I automated the high cut frequency. I'm basically moving that out over time because I didn't want the hi-hats to come in so sharp in the beginning of the verse, but I kind of wanted a hi-hat feel in this song. To come in that early in the chorus, but I didn't want it to be so noticeable really. So, but just bearing it by taking away a lot of the frequency, and then I pop it out in the start of the second verse when the actual entire drum set comes in. That's a good segue into the number 2 part on how I create dynamic is dynamics between your first chorus and your second chorus. Should they be the exact same? I mean, they're most of the time going to be quite similar, but you want to create some type of dynamic between the first chorus and second chorus and your third chorus if you have a third chorus as well. So in this song, actually I went pretty far and made the first chorus very different than the second chorus. And that's because I didn't add the drums at all in the first chorus. So that means the second chorus is just going to stand out way different than the first chorus because it has a whole entire drum set. For example, this chorus sounds like this. You know someone, but after all, when it's over, you can't let go. The second part of the chorus. Can't let go. Now we're in the woods, making it harder than we should. Just when I thought we were going somewhere good. A huge dynamic difference between the first and second chorus because I just added the drums in the second chorus. You can't do that in a lot of the songs. If you're not going to have drums, what else can you have in there that adds that dynamic? And I do have a lot of things still happening here in the first chorus. Synths and harmonies that really carry that dynamic, and it's the first time the piano comes in as well. So these keys here, that's something different that happens in the first chorus. I'm just scared to open up. So it still drops in a way because we're adding synths and pianos. So there's still a contrast between the verses, but we don't give it all away yet for the drum set, because the drum set comes at the end of the first chorus where we have a bit of a drum fill, and then it kind of kicks the song into high gear. I guess I misunderstood. You left me wasted. Other ways you can create dynamic between your first chorus and second chorus is maybe holding back on some harmonies and letting those come in the second verse, just adding more instrumentation, more shakers, more a different hi-hat, maybe a tambourine hit, maybe more claps, more snare hit. That's a good segue into the third way and how I like to create dynamic is I'm thinking about how to create dynamic between the first verse and the second verse. So not only the choruses, although that's the most important part of the chorus, you want the verses to be different as well. So usually, like, the first verse would be soft and quiet, more on the quiet side, so that the second verse can be a bit more energetic. Typically, the best way to do that is leave the drums out in the first verse, have them come in the second verse, but it doesn't always call for that. You know, sometimes the song needs drums in the first verse. But if you're going to have drums in the first verse, then okay, how do you create that dynamic in the second verse? What other thing are you going to have, or what things are you going to take away that has that dynamic? A great example is I don't have any drums, and in the second verse, I have drums that are carrying the whole thing, and a different bass sound, plus a guitar. So it's very dynamically very different. We have these drums, this bass, and then this guitar, which I've automated here to come up a bit louder. Now it's getting late, I wonder why you pull me. I wanted that little lick here just to be a bit louder on the transition part of the song. The fourth way in how I like to add dynamic in my song, and a very classic way to add dynamic, is using stops. And you can use stops here or there tastefully in your songs, and that's basically like stopping the entire track or a large instrument of the track. For example, here's a stop between the second verse and the chorus, and it's usually very popular right before the chorus. Take everything out, stop for like a half a bar or even a beat, and then bring everything back in. And decide, we're just dragging this along. I'm just scared to open up. We could also even take everything out here. There's a lot of pads that we could take out just to make it fall flat almost. And then the chorus lifts back up again. So you can do stops between choruses, between sections of verses, anywhere that the song calls for it, but it's a great way to add dynamic. The fifth way on how I add dynamic to tracks, and actually it's my favorite way, I didn't say they were in priority order, but this would be my favorite way, is to add harmonies to the track, to the lead vocal. You could also do harmony pads and that kind of thing and automate it with the filter, kind of like what I did with the electric guitar at the beginning. As an example here, we have a lead vocal and then we have these pre-harmonies. If the lead vocal didn't have any harmonies, it would just be that one voice for the entire intro and pre before the first chorus. So let me just solo that for you so you can hear what it's like coming into it. It's getting late, I wonder why you pull me closer just to push me aside. It might be fate, I can't decide. You just keep me hanging on. Harmonies don't have to be super noticeable, and you don't have to sound like the Dixie Chicks. If they're just subtly in there, it's enough to create that dynamic that's something fresh for the listener. Another little vocal hack that you can do on your choruses, if the song calls for it again, sometimes it doesn't, but you can double your vocal. So basically, once you have your lead vocal take, sing it, you can sing it again and try to sing it exactly in the same time. And you can't just go and duplicate your lead vocal track because that will create phasing. So for example, I have two different takes here of the actual lead vocal. Get to open up what's down under. And you can see how it's all very much in time with my lead vocal that's up here. But what I've done here is I've panned this one 30 to the left and this one 30 to the right. And because we have no doubles on the verses and pre's, but on the chorus, then you have two new vocal tracks going in different directions on the stereo field. It's going to sound a lot wider. Keep me hanging on. I'm just scared to open up what's down under. You think you know someone, but after all, when it's over. The topic of width alone is enough to have its own kind of place as a way to make dynamic in your songs too. And that can be also using reverb and delay to create using the stereo field to create dynamics. So maybe like your verses are really dry and upfront, but then your choruses have a lot of reverb and it seems far away. That's different and fresh to the listener. Or maybe it's opposite. Your verses are very wet and then your choruses are dry and upfront. That's something I like to do with lead vocals sometimes, is to automate the actual reverb on the vocal. So you maybe would increase the send of the reverb in the chorus, or are opposite, maybe in the verses. On the topic of vocals, there is another thing you could do, is creating ad-libs without sounding too cheesy. So here's an ad-lib that I created in this song. So it's full voice, has a lot of reverb, and it's really tucked back in the mix that you can't really notice it with everything in. I'm just scared to open up what's down under you. But it is just another thing, and some people will notice it, and that just creates another little peak on a mountain in the second chorus or whatever. So adding things and taking things away. These are just 5 ways that I like to use in a lot of the songs I make. And as always, please feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.